May 9, 1994, Stateville Correctional Center, Illinois. It was just before 5 a.m. when John Wayne Gacy opened his eyes. The cell around him was cold and gray. For most people, it would have felt like any ordinary prison morning, but for Gacy, it wasn't. This would be the final day of his life. Once a trusted businessman, volunteer, and neighborhood nice guy, John Wayne Gacy would be remembered not for any of those things, but for the dark secrets buried beneath his house. By the time the sun set, the man once called Pogo the Clown would be gone, and the families of his 33 known victims would finally witness the end of one of the most disturbing chapters in American criminal history. Welcome to The Final Crime, where we walk you through the chilling last hours of the world's most dangerous criminals. Today, we step into the final day of John Wayne Gacy, one of the most notorious names in true crime history, a man whose life was built on masks, lies, and unimaginable horror. For 14 years, Gacy had lived in solitary confinement. His life on death row was quiet, controlled, and eerie. He had no roommates, no real freedom. But one thing kept him busy: painting. His favorite subject? Clowns. Bright, cartoonish faces painted over darkness. To many, it was disturbing. But to Gacy, it was just another performance. The guards served him breakfast around 5:30 a.m. Eggs, toast, and black coffee. Nothing unusual. Gacy sat calmly and ate in silence, as if it were any other day. There was no sign of panic, no last-minute breakdown. He chewed slowly, kept his eyes low, and stayed strangely composed. Some say it was chilling to watch. He didn't look like a man facing death. He looked like a man waiting for a bus. From the outside, the world was watching. News crews had set up near the prison. Protesters stood outside the gates, some against the death penalty, some there to witness justice. Emotions ran high. It had been over a decade since the full extent of Gacy's crimes had shocked the nation. But the pain still burned fresh for many. This was more than an execution. It was a reckoning. Around 9 a.m., Gacy received a visitor, his sister Karen. She was the only family member who still visited him. The rest had walked away long ago. Karen couldn't explain why she stayed in contact. Some said it was guilt. Others said it was loyalty. But when they hugged that morning, it was clear. She was saying goodbye to the brother she once knew, not the monster he had become. A few hours later, his legal team showed up. They were working on a final appeal, trying everything they could to delay the execution. Gacy still insisted he was innocent. He claimed he'd been framed, or that others were involved. The courts had already rejected every version of his story, but still he stuck to it. Even now, with only hours left, he refused to admit guilt. His lawyers filed one last motion, but it was denied within minutes. A Catholic priest arrived around 2 p.m. Gacy had requested the last rites. He had converted to Catholicism during his time on death row, and this ritual marked the end. It was one of the only serious moments of the day. No one laughed. No one spoke out loud. The priest prayed quietly, and Gacy listened with eyes closed. Some believe this was the only moment he allowed himself to think about death. By late afternoon, the tension in the prison was rising. Outside, the crowd had doubled. Reporters, photographers, family members, protesters, they were all there. Some wanted answers. Others just wanted closure, but no one was looking away. At 5:45 p.m., Gacy was moved to a special holding cell, just steps away from the execution chamber. The walls in this section of the prison were thicker, the air colder. It was designed to feel final, and it did. The guards were alert. Every movement was watched. There was no room for error. Then came the moment everyone had anticipated, his last meal. Gacy made a specific request: a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken, a dozen fried shrimp, a large serving of French fries, fresh strawberries, and a Diet Coke. It was almost casual, the kind of meal someone might order during a lazy weekend. But it wasn't casual. It was a twisted reminder of the life he once lived. Before his arrest, Gacy had managed several KFC restaurants. The chicken wasn't just food. It was a symbol of the double life he'd lived, friendly on the surface, horrifying underneath. After finishing his meal, Gacy was offered a chance to make a phone call. He refused. There were no messages to loved ones, no goodbye speeches, just more silence. He was given time to shower and change into a clean prison uniform. Then he sat with his lawyer and the priest for the last time, still calm, still collected, still insisting he had been wronged. At 11:30 p.m., it was time. Two guards entered the holding cell and told Gacy to stand. He followed them without resistance. The walk to the execution chamber was short, just a few dozen steps, but it felt like miles. Some guards later said the silence during that walk was the heaviest thing they'd ever felt. Gacy looked straight ahead. No tears, no hesitation. He didn't ask for anything. Inside the execution chamber, the lights were bright and cold. Gacy was strapped to a padded table, his arms extended. Behind a thick glass window, a small group of witnesses had gathered. Media representatives, law enforcement officers, and family members of victims. The room went still. A prison official asked Gacy if he had any final words. He paused, looked straight ahead, then said, "Kiss my ass." That was it. A final act of defiance from a man who had taken so much and given nothing back. No apology, no explanation, just a sneer. At 12:01 a.m. on May 10, the execution began. The process used a three-drug combination, one to sedate, one to stop breathing, and one to stop the heart. But something went wrong. The IV lines became clogged, and for nearly 20 minutes the process was delayed. Gacy lay on the table, unmoving. Technicians worked quickly to fix the issue. Witnesses later described the moment as unbearable. The delay made everything more disturbing. Finally, at 12:58 a.m., John Wayne Gacy was pronounced dead. By 3 a.m., his body was transferred for an autopsy. Doctors removed his brain to study it, hoping to find a medical reason behind his behavior. But the tests showed nothing unusual. No damage, no abnormalities, just a normal brain and a horrifying legacy. His body was cremated 3 days later. His ashes were returned to his family, and his final resting place was kept secret. There would be no grave, no marker, no memorial, just ashes and unanswered questions. The execution of John Wayne Gacy marked the end of a terrifying story. But for the families of his victims, the pain didn't disappear. Justice had been served, but the loss remained. His final 24 hours were filled with calm, control, and eerie silence, a disturbing mirror of the life he lived. A man who wore masks, who tricked a city, who smiled while hiding horror. Even in death, Gacy offered no peace. What do you think about his final hours? Was justice served, or was it too late? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe to The Final Crime, where the end of the story is just the beginning. Because sometimes, the darkest truths hide in the final 24 hours.